from Juba, on air and online.
This is iRadio News.
Hello, good afternoon. This is iRadio News. First, here are the headlines. Central Equatoria State Government has launched the allotment of land covering 1,800 square kilometers in Digala area of Rajaf Payam. South Sudanese musician Suleiman Musa, popularly known as Nicky Prince of the Hard Life Avenue Stars, is calling on the national authorities to prioritize security stabilization to encourage the voluntary return of refugees. And the newly appointed Commissioner of Malakal County in Upper Nile State has pledged to promote unity and development in the area. These stories and more coming to you in this news bulletin with me, Baria Johnson, and now the news in detail. Central Equatoria State Government has launched the allotment of land covering 1,800 square kilometers in Digala area of Rajaf Payam. Juba County Commissioner Emmanuel Tete Isbon says the land will be used for development and residential purposes. He says the designated land will support various development efforts, including residential housing, industrial zones, agriculture schemes, and social amenities. The commissioner says the initiative is part of the government's effort to foster sustainable development and attract both local and international investment. He urged those who have been allocated plot to start developing it, saying it will be given out to a different person if the owner does not build on it for a period of 1 year. He was speaking in Digala over the weekend.
Launching out there Bidaya Teslim Taradi, Tadigala. And the most important part for us as a government is the public facilities and the government institutions, including churches, police stations, schools, public institutions or institute, universities. And the most important part of this demarcation ajama is grievous, magaber, de hajal muhim. Tu kijito anagutala nina kahakuma. Lazim yakun fi magaber fi atakhtin. Au hiya zol alkani ndo gite energy stele muhim shele Rajaf Payam. ولا اللي كان عنده يعني اجراء ما كمل يمشي كمله في رجاء فيام عشان ما انه نادرين يعني هنا كحكومه لما ندي محل لزول ولا لمؤسسه نقول 6 شهور انت ما بين محل في 6 شهور انا حكومه جيشه for public interest نو دي لتا محل انت ما بينه بعد 6 شهر في هناك في اوراق documents ناس اللي عندهم اوراق you have to develop this land within period of 1 year either 6 months الفترة ديك أنت ما بنيته أنا بيشيلوا منك أنا بعمل كسيمبوليس أنا بعمل محل أتيمين أنا بودي للجنوب تاني الدير اسكن ما لقى محل القاعد في إيجار ما بنديو صورنا قاعد نودي ديك أكاونتي برضو عشان مشهور بتاعنا ما يمشي ساكت.
Leon Abe, the State Minister of Local Government, called on plot owners to begin building as soon as possible, saying that land left unused for a year may be given to others in need.
يابا أنا حكومة ولاية قبل أنا إن عارفين داخل جوبا هنا كان يجيني كيف ممكن بعدين دورية ظاهر بيكون مشكلة في شارع لأنه له عددية داخل جوبا هو عددية أكثر من الطاقة داخل المدينة لكن مواطنين بتاعي أهل بتاعي تدقالة جاب فكرة أدي حكومة يعني ضغط الكان بيجينا في ولاية شوية كده ترى يحطونا شوية.
Speaking in the same event, Executive Director of Rajaf Payam, Martin Morris, urged the landowners to develop the area.
أي زول مفروض شوين هيبدأ يستلم مال بتاعه لأنه كل ما محل بخططوه بيسيبوه فاضي بلان جرابس بخش فوقه بيجيب لنا مشاكل كتير عشان كده ده بيكون رسالة بتاعنا بيقولوا في يوم بتاع الليلة أي زول المتابع في الكلام ده إنه هسه النهارده الهونربل كوميشنر مينستر لوكال جوفرمنت والحضور ده كله جعملوا ضربة البداية فتشوا أي خدمة موجود يعني بعدين للقدام أنا متأكد ده بيكون كمدينة تاني بخدمات بتاعه كله أنا بننافس في السياسات بتاع ليد قرن أنا بدأنا ننقل المدينة للشنو للقرى.
South Sudanese musician Suleiman Musa, popularly known as Nicky Prince of the Hard Life Avenue Stars, is calling on national authorities to prioritize security stabilization to encourage the voluntary return of refugees. Born and raised in a refugee camp in neighboring Uganda during Sudan's civil war in the late 1990s, Nicky Prince has first-hand experience of displacement. The artist pointed out that many refugees who returned to South Sudan following the 2005 Comprehensive Peace Agreement, which paved the way for South Sudan's independence in 2011, were later forced to flee again due to persistent violence in their home areas. Speaking on the Zone 72 Youth Program over the weekend, he emphasized that many South Sudanese living in camps, especially along the South Sudan-Uganda border, are willing to return home but are held back by ongoing insecurity. Nicky Prince said that such cycles of movement discourage others from considering return. He urged the government to restore security in border communities to make voluntary return a realistic and safe option.
Right now, the situation is different. There are people who are trying to come back voluntarily. Fortunately, they also experience violence. People have to go back and forth. I'm talking of refugees, people like from the bordering counties of central Equatoria, of Morobo, talk of Kajukeji. People keep coming, by the way. They voluntarily return because the situation is worse in the camp. But unfortunately, they come back, all of a sudden there's violence. Again, they have to go back. And this news spreads, and actually, it removes the idea of ever people thinking of coming back home. So you know what that means? That means we really need security to be brought back to its normal status, so that people can willingly come back instead of waiting for an official repatriation. Because even the situation currently alone is already forcing people to come back home.
The newly appointed Commissioner of Malakal County in Upper Nile State has pledged to promote unity and development in the area. Michael Utho took the oath of office before Governor James Kong during a swearing-in ceremony held at the State Coordination Office in Juba this morning. Appointed under the other political parties' OPP ticket, Commissioner Utho expressed gratitude to the national and state leadership. He pledged to work hand-in-hand with stakeholders to restore peace and improve service delivery in Malakal.
اولا انا بشكر رئاسه الجمهوريه وبشكر رئيس الحزب بتاعي بتاع او بي بي وبشكر سيد الحاكم وبرضه نضيف نائب بتاعه ونوعدهم انه هنشتغل معهم بقلب واحد وخطوه واحد وان شاء الله هنجيبوا استقرار لمدينه ملكال لكل القبائل الموجود لهم بالمحبه والشرف وان شاء الله بعد استتاب الامن هيكون عندنا تنمية مستدامة إن شاء الله بقدر الحاكم أنا أعرفه هو هيقدر يعمل لنا كل حاجات الفيه.
Meanwhile, Paulina Lokudu, Deputy Governor of Central Equatoria State and representative of the OPP leadership, reaffirmed the party's support for the new commissioner.
دايرين المحافظ بتاعنا والقيادة كله بتاع مكان ما فيه سيد الحاكم يتعاونوا مع بعض عشان نعمل خدمات تنمية وأمن في مكان كاونتي وفي أفنان بصفة عامة. أننا كقيادة بتاع OPP بنأكد إنه أننا بندي سبورت للحكومة بتاع أفنان وبرضه سبورت للكوميشنر بتاع مكان كاونتي عشان يكون في استقرار تام عشان ملكال يرجع زي ما هو زمان. أننا عارفين ملكال يدمر مع حرب وأننا ما بنشاهم في أي حاجة ممكن بعمل حرب ولا نزاع ولا ديسبليسمنت. أننا بنجيب مع ديفلوبمنت وقادرين نأكد للناس بتاع جنوب السودان بصفة عامة إنه أننا فخورين جدا من قرار العمل رئيس الجمهورية عشان يعين كوميشنر بتاع ملكال وده بتاع قدام بتاع ازدهار قدام بتاع تنمية وقدام بتاع وحدة.
For his part, Upper Nile Governor James Kong called for cooperation among local officials and urged the new commissioner to focus on his responsibilities.
ما زي ملكال اللي كان في شهور الماء كان ملكال اللي عنده استقرار وفي موجودات كثيره الناس تشتغل فيه هو اهم شيء نلقاه ومواطن بتاع ملكال ده ما مواطن بتاع ابانا البراء للمواطنين الموجودين في جنوب السودان. انا يعني بشكر رئيس الجمهوريه ومن نقول له انه هيمشي يشغلوا في زملاء كثير هناك برضه يمشي يلقاهم مش يتعاون معهم. اهم شيء ده تعاونه وفهم بتاع العمل ده ابو خليل منه ينجح.
You are listening to iRadio Afternoon News. At least 360 households in Panyidwai Payam of Panikan County, Upper Nile State, have received food assistance from the Catholic Diocese of Malakal. The emergency intervention was carried out in response to an appeal from local authorities following the arrival of internally displaced persons from the northern parts of the state. Umjok Obaj, the emergency project coordinator for the diocese, said the distribution targeted vulnerable groups including returnees and newly arrived internally displaced persons. Each household received 50 kilograms of sorghum according to the World Food Programme standards. He spoke to iRadio this morning.
So we went to Panyidwai on Saturday. We conducted a distribution, and the community appreciated the Carter's office for the distribution because they spent a long time without being supported by any organization. And it's the duty of the office of the church to support the vulnerable anywhere in South Sudan, and especially in the diocese of Upper Nile, of Malakal. The amount that was distributed to the IDPs and the returnees, it is 50 kgs of sorghum to each household. The total household that benefited, there are 360 households.
Beneficiaries also received jerrycans for water storage. However, Omujok said many people requested shelter materials such as plastic sheets, which were not available during this round of support. The food distribution was funded by sister missionaries, with the diocese serving as the implementing partner. Umjok said the selection of beneficiaries was carried out by a community-based targeting committee made up of chiefs, youth, and religious representatives. He said the biggest challenge remained the limited quantity of food, as more than 1,000 people in Panyidwai are still in need. One of the beneficiaries reportedly said it was their first time receiving assistance since arriving in the area and praised the church for its timely response. The Malakal Diocese said it will continue to support vulnerable communities across Upper Nile depending on donor support. Panyidwai is among several areas in Upper Nile State hosting returnees and displaced families affected by years of conflict and instability. The international medical charity MSF has strongly condemned the attack on Morobo County Hospital in Central Equatoria State, which it said occurred on the night of Friday. In a statement dated April 22nd, Medicine Sans Frontiers said the armed individuals stole medical supplies, robbed staff of their belongings, and set ablaze 2 ambulances in the hospital. It said that no staff or patient sustained physical injuries during this incident. However, it condemned the incident, saying such acts of violence severely undermine the already fragile provision of critical healthcare services in an area where communities face limited access to essential medical care. Morobo County Hospital is one of the Ministry of Health facilities supported by MSF in Yei and Morobo counties. According to MSF, it's supporting the maternity unit of the hospital through the provision of medical supplies, medical training, and bedside coaching, as well as contributions to staff salaries. At the time of the attack, there was no MSF staff at the facility. MSF said that the volatile security situation in Yei and Morobo counties continue to present persistent challenges for delivery of medical and humanitarian services. As such, MSF reduced its outreach services in Yei County due to increased insecurity, which disrupted access to healthcare for many vulnerable communities. It warned that attacks on healthcare facilities are a grave violation of international humanitarian law and are unacceptable. MSF urgently calls on all parties to the ongoing conflict in South Sudan to uphold their obligations to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure, including health workers, patients, and medical facilities. Hospitals must not be targeted. And finally, Lake State Police has successfully graduated 11 female officers following a 3-month driver training program, an initiative aimed at promoting gender inclusion and strengthening institutional capacity. The graduation ceremony held over the weekend in Rumbek was in a bid to empower women to take on active operational roles within the state's security sector. The program, launched in March 2025, was led by Major General Ilia Costa, Director General of the Civil Registry, Passports, Nationality Department, and former Commission of Police in Lake State. The training equipped the officers with essential vehicle operation and logistics skills to support both field and administrative police operations, improving readiness and fostering inclusivity in the force. Speaking on the state broadcaster SSBC, Major General Costa explained his dual purpose to returning to the state.
بعد ما كنا بزميلي شولا تيم عشان نجي هنا أنا قلت أنا لازم نجي معه سوا عشان نجي نسلمكم القوة كله ورئاسة بتاع ولاية ليك ستيت كله سلم عليه قدامكم كله. بعدين سبب نمرة 1 أنا جيت بيو. سبب نمرة 2 بنات بتاعي دي الحسن كارجو سواقين ده شغل نحن بدأناه وكان مهم خالص عشان نجي ونحضر تكريج بتاعهم الليلة. فأنا بقول لهم ألف مبروك لكم للتكريج بتاعكم. باقي ناس اللي لسه ما ضربوا على الدنيا أنا متأكد سيد اللي وبجي بواصل معهم. وبرضه أنا بقول لكم أنا بشيل اسماء بتاعكم كلكم انا بمشي بيو جوبا انا بجي ترى لكم رخصه بتاع قياده بعملها وانا برسل لكم هنا.
Major General Chol Atem, now serving as the new Police Commissioner of Lake State, affirmed his commitment to the task left to him.
يبقى شغلي ما هيفرق ده شغل تاع الشرطه ما هنخرج برا من شغل تاع الشرطه وقوانين بتاعه والبوليس اللي هو سياسه ولايه وحكوميه فيها واحد نشتغل فيه. عندكم جاهزيه؟ انا داير كل الشرطه يجي عشان احنا نجي نتمم بعضنا البعض ونعرفوا اللي عنده جاهزيه منو. الكلام ده مفهوم؟
The initiative aligns with broader national efforts to increase women's participation in the security and law enforcement sectors, especially in areas traditionally dominated by men. You are listening to iRadio News, and now to the regional and international news by my colleague Helen Samuel.
Good afternoon, and here are some of the stories making headlines across the globe. At least 7 people have been killed and several others injured in an oversight Russian missile and drone attack in the Kyiv region, the Interior Minister has said. In a post on social media, Ihor Klimenko said residential areas, hospitals and sports infrastructure had been hit. At least 6 of those who died were in a high-rise building in the capital, Kyiv's mayor Vitaly Klitschko said, adding that 22 others were injured in the city. In recent weeks, Russia has been carrying out massive aerial attacks on Ukrainian cities. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is traveling to London to discuss the conflict later on Monday. Elsewhere, the health ministry in Syria said at least 22 people have been killed and 63 others wounded in a suicide bomb attack at a church in Damascus. A man opened fire with a weapon at the Greek Orthodox Church of the Prophet Elias in the Dweiler neighborhood during a service on Sunday evening before detonating an explosive vest, according to the Interior Ministry. Photos and video from inside the church showed a heavily damaged altar, pews covered in broken glass, and blood spattered across the walls. Finally, rescuers in Indonesia are searching for a Brazilian tourist who fell while hiking near the crater of Mount Rinjani, an active volcano. Brazilian media and the woman's family have identified her as a 26-year-old Juliana Marenzo who was hiking with a group when she disappeared around 06:30 local time on Saturday. Brazilian authorities said she fell from a cliff that surrounds the trails next to the volcano's crater. search and rescue attempts have so far been unsuccessful due to the extreme terrain and foggy weather, according to Indonesian authorities. Those are some of the stories making headlines in the region and across the borders. Back to you, Baria Johnson.
Thank you, Helen Samuel. And now to the sports news with Emmanuel Joseph Akile.
Real Madrid manager Xavi Alonso says defender Antonio Rudiger complained of a racist incitement incident during their Club World Cup win against Mexico side Pachuca. Rudiger clashed with Pachuca captain Cabral in stoppage time after claiming he had been fouled. Rudiger spoke to referee Ramon, who crossed his arms in front of his chest to signal that FIFA's anti-racism protocol had been activated. Cabral denied he racially abused Rudiger, saying he had used an expletive and called him a coward. The match in North Carolina ended soon after the incident. Real won 3-1 and players argued again following the final whistle. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander capped a dominant season as he led the Oklahoma City Thunder to the NBA championship after beating the Indiana Pacers in Game 7 of the playoff finals. The Canadian 26 scored 29 points and had 12 assists in their 103-91 point success over the Indiana Pacers in Oklahoma to clinch the series 4-3, the first time since 2016 that the finals had gone to a deciding 7th game. He was named the NBA Finals Most Valuable Player or MVP to add to his NBA regular season MVP award and scoring title, just the 4th player and the first since Shaquille O'Neal to achieve the rare treble in one season. It is the Thunder's first title since the franchise moved to Oklahoma City from Seattle in 2008 after Seattle won the 1979 crown. And finally, Mikati Kessler claimed her first grass court WTA Tour title with a 6-4 and 7-5 win over Diana in a rain-affected Nottingham Open final. The American 25 was on the cusp of taking the first set, leading 5-4 with a break when the covers were pulled across the court. Once play resumed after a lengthy delay, Kessler picked up from where she left off as she wrapped up the opening set before getting a break in the 7th game of the second that looked to have her on course to take the match. That's all from the world of sports, and back to you, Baria Johnson.
You are listening to iRadio News, and to end this bulletin, here are the headlines once again. Central Equatorial State Government has launched the allotment of land covering 1,800 square kilometers in Digala area of Rajaf Payam. South Sudanese musician Suleiman Musa, popularly known as Nicky Prince of the Hard Life Avenue Stars, is calling on the national authorities to prioritize security stabilization to encourage the voluntary return of refugees. And the newly appointed Commissioner of Malakal County in Upper Nile State has pledged to promote unity and development in the area. That's the end of iRadio Afternoon News. If there is a story or an event you would like iRadio to cover or report about, please send us a text message on +211 925 287 870. It's also our WhatsApp number. Follow us on X at iRadio Juba, like our Facebook page, iRadio, subscribe to our YouTube channel at iRadio South Sudan. You can also visit our website and listen to us online at www.iradio.org. Stay tuned for the news in Arabic at 1:30. I am Baria Johnson. Thanks for listening.